Hello friends, it is I, OmnusI, here once more for another question from the RPG Brigade for RPGaDay. And this is the 7th of August, and I will be answering the 7th question. Again, a general question to share our experiences and our approach to gaming to try to inspire others and sometimes to educate those who don't have a lot of experience. These questions are about how the game works for you, so bearing that in mind. Question number 7 is, how can a game master make the stakes important? One of the interesting things about role-playing games is that when they're done well, they convey something to the people who share the experience. If you and your friends get together to watch a movie, generally, if the movie is a good one, it does a job of working you through a series of emotions. It makes you feel things. It can make you tense and excited. It can make you depressed and introspective. Many movies can convey a lot of different emotions within the lump sum of entertainment. Role-playing games are participatory, meaning you are involved in it at any step that you are at the table, virtual or otherwise, and you are, hopefully, doing something that is important to the story. As far as making those stakes important, not every role-playing game requires high stakes. Sometimes you can just form a group and have a market day where you just role-play with people and enjoy walking in the shoes of another person for a little while and not saving the world or fighting the big bad evil guy. Sometimes it's just finding a child who, was lost in a cave. But if you want to make the stakes important, there's a number of tricks, techniques, and other methods of ratcheting up the importance of a given scenario. And as I often do, I will share my top 3 with you. I love numbering things to 3. The first one to make the stakes important is you have to give the characters some bonds, something they hold to be important. It can be their characters have a loved one who has a direct impact on them, not just something that's in the background mentioned. This could be a mentor. This could be a parent figure. This could be another adventurer or some such. A personal physician. Something of that nature. Something that has a personal impact and it would affect the character negatively if that character were taken out of their story. First of all, you have the obvious mechanical reasons in a lot of games that the character would suffer some sort of torment and trauma at the loss of this character or this thing that they are attached to. By bringing some sort of personal meaning to whatever it is that you're going to be challenging, you bring an immediacy of response, depending on the threat you use. If one of the players is a knight, and you have the villain of the story kidnap his betrothed, hopefully that player will have an attachment to their character and want to see that character with his betrothed, and they will move heaven and earth to have their character recover their betrothed, especially if something bad, like she's being forced to marry the evil villain. They'll add some immediacy and drive the plot forward. That makes the stakes important to that character. And in that case, you should be prepared for the eventualities that may come of that. By doing this, you may push the right buttons to really challenge character development, to push them in a direction that, may cause their character to grow, sometimes in unexpected ways, if you're open-ended enough to allow that. Another method is to have the right sense of scope for the story that you're telling. The easiest and most traditional way is to have some really large threat. The destruction of the world, is a fun one for things like fantasy games. You know, something is coming that will threaten everything. If you've played video games, you know this is a common theme too. But you know, literature. You know, we'll go back to the Lord of the Rings again because I love the Lord of the Rings series. You know, Sauron was not an idle threat. He would have done what he could to destroy the world had he succeeded. So all of the good creatures of the world should have lined up to fight Sauron. And while it did happen at one time, then as the story went on, it was really a group of mixed people, different races who got together to go and fight the evil together. So that sense of scope is one way that you can develop the story to be important. The important thing about this is, though, as just a friendly warning from someone who's been there, you have to still keep it personal. The Lord of the Rings would have been an okay story if you didn't have the personal drama of Frodo and the ring. By having Frodo in the ring, you had a nice person. Frodo was a nice person. You immediately would feel empathetic for him and the struggles he had, but it was all the more because you saw how much his soul was being twisted by the ring. You kept that personal element involved, and that made all the extra action and all the extra drama that much better, that much more focused. Sure, you saw the evil, you saw what Saruman did. You heard, you saw what the orcs were developed by, and how that they came about, and how bad that was, and massacres and slaughters and horrible things. Truly, there's no way that you could look at Sauron and go, "Well, what a nice guy," or he was just misunderstood. He was pretty much as evil as they come, and as a result, by keeping everything in scope and yet staying personal horror involved and trials, you told a complete adventure story through multiple eyes to make that happen. You kept it personal, but the scope was for the world. It isn't always important, though, to challenge the entire world. Sometimes it's saving a town. You can shrink the scope and still make it very important, especially if those players maintain that attachment, like my first point. But saving a town, saving your player's hometown, for instance, keeps a lot of the import if what you're saving them from isn't a hostile merchant who wants to come in and buy a couple of the businesses. If it's a goblin horde who wants to come in and steal and kill, your characters may face having to lose people they care about. That's pretty significant. And your characters will have a certain amount of import that they personally lend to that. The final thing I would say that my suggestion for making everything in the game seem important is to keep things as real as possible. When you throw a lot of abstracts in, sometimes it can really make things challenging. Why does Star Wars fascinate people when your average person doesn't have experience with aliens, with androids? It's only recently where some of that technology is really coming in. So why back in 1974 or 76 or whatever, why was that so important? Because the reality of it was that all the technology and all of that and the Force and lightsabers, it was still in essence a microcosm of struggle that was very relatable. Luke started out as a nobody and rose to be somebody of important significance in the episode 4, 5, and 6. And we could empathize with him, not because he was this mighty Jedi Knight with the ability to be the best lightsaber duelist and move things with his mind and do all kinds of fascinating things. We followed him in that struggle from being just nobody to going through trial, after trial, the loss of his adopted parents, and facing, having killed over 1 million people with the destruction of the Death Star. Self-defense, yeah, but, there's still scars. And then all the other challenges of losing his hand, fighting his father, and then ultimately facing up to the fact that he was going to have to confront his father about all that had happened with him. It was a challenge that was relatable. Even if we don't have starships, we haven't had a huge Death Star threaten our world, but we could relate to the human challenges involved. And really that's the trick, because you could take high-flying concepts and things like that. The more abstract you get, the more difficult it is to make your players care and make your world have that kind of importance, that they can't wait to see the next thing, the next chapter that you draw up, the next challenge their players get to overcome, because they are salivating, they are chomping at the bit to see the story resolved, because it does have import. It is a game. Yes, when you walk away from the table, the game is over for a time, but your memories are still with you. You can still reminisce with your fellows about the events that happened. You can tease people about the bad dice rolls or the bad decision somebody made. But these things are important. I will hold that what you create in the space of a role-play game may just be a beer and pretzels game that doesn't have any lasting importance. Of course. It is a hobby. It is something we do to relax and enjoy ourselves. But some of these stories that we tell, who knows? Maybe it'll be the next great fantasy epic, or science fiction epic, or murder mystery, or something. Maybe we'll hold on to these ideas that'll keep us from a dark spot, because we can remember the fun that we had. So, for those of us who play, let's just keep making beautiful things. And when they need to be important, these are how I like to make them important. I'm OmnusI once more here in my lair. Thank you for joining me, and tomorrow will be another day and another question, so I hope you enjoy these and you continue to watch. And check out all the other people. All you have to do is key in hashtag RPGaDay or RPGaDay 2018, and you'll see lots and lots of people like me posting, some of them directly on Facebook with the Facebook Live options, some of us who are doing blogs about it, and people like myself on YouTube who are putting out a reflective video on these topics. So, thank you very much. Appreciate all of you, and I can't wait to answer the next question tomorrow. Thank you, and farewell.